So welcome to another exploration into consciousness. And I think we're going to call today's gathering, we're going to call it recalibration, because I think we all need it. And whatever that means, let's just see how we all doing. How we all doing.
So I think what I was just saying, the geomagnetic storms that are happening have been really intense. They're going on hot, right? Hot and hard. I think here in the Bay Area, we've had a lot of pictures of the effect, the Northern Lights, the effect of the geostorms that are going on, the sunstorms. And I wasn't able to, because we're foggy here. The one night I could have seen them when it was clear, I didn't. I didn't think, oh, no way, we're not going to see them here. And then there were all kinds of beautiful pictures from the Bay Area. And so the next night, I looked out my window and I did take some pictures, and it was interesting. Even though it was fogged in, I could see like that pink reddish glow. It almost looked like sunset time instead of 11:30 at night. And then the next night, the same thing. About 2 a.m, I saw the same kind of glow out the top of my window. So it's I don't know. I've never heard of Northern Lights being seen in California. I mean, I don't even know if there ever was a last time or a report of that. So, that shifting is creating, I think for me personally, a lot of body energy, right? Headaches, weird solar plexus kind of stomach aches. My body just is achy, and it feels like it's recalibrating to a new energy.
Jody, how you getting on?
Well, I got a cold that I've actually valiantly been fighting. So it's only kind of mildly annoying, but it's still making me grumpy. Um, but so one of the astrologers that I follow online, who has some very interesting ideas, she was saying that there is actually like an attack being waged right now from the evil onto the good to try to suck their energy. I don't know how deeply I I just scratched the surface on that thought, but it got me thinking about like some of the things that are happening recently. They do happen to coincide with the solar flare. Um, but the solar flare is also spontaneous. You know, we get we know about this about 3 days after it happens. So like we see it happening and we're like, okay, it's going to reach us in about two to 3 days. So it's somewhat spontaneous, but I think that this attack that's been going on has been planned for a long time. They just happen to overlap each other. So I take that for what it's worth. I'm not sure.
Well, I mean, from my perspective, this, the good versus evil, right? It's been going on for a really long time, thousands and thousands of years, especially since the start of the last solar cycle, 22,536 years ago. So now we're at like the beginning of a new solar cycle. And when I say solar cycle, I mean like the start of the precession of the equinoxes, which is a 26,000 year journey, basically, our solar system and the way it moves around the galaxy. And when it's almost like it's really interesting, we were talking a lot on the Earth Nouveau text about the elements, about the elementals and the energy of the fifth element. The movie The Fifth Element was on the other day, and also The Last Airbender, right, which is all about working with the elements. And one of the things that just came into my memory from the movie The Fifth Element is it says when evil stands there, then at this certain time period, right, then everything is colored by that energy, right? So if evil can stand at the beginning of the solar cycle, like in a domination, then it can choose the way the next 22,000 years flows. So with that in mind, of course, right now there's this battle between good and evil, because all of us, right, are holding so much light and so much space for love and unity, right, for that higher frequency of moving from duality into this unity space. And of course, there's beings that don't want that. So, this is a battle royale that, as we're splitting these timelines, it seems like two timelines are sort of like spiraling apart. And this lower frequency timeline is sort of like spiraling away from the higher frequency time matrix. I think by the end of the year, it's going to be null and void. Like the timelines are going to be separate enough that the darkness won't have the influence that it does now. So right now they're pulling out all the stops. So there's a lot of energy attacks going on. It's just really important, I think, to just be in your own energy and connected in your own sovereign space, right? And just really aware of what's coming at you.
Go, Sandrine. Just trying to unmute.
Okay.
Yeah,
Why does
there
it
we
not
go.
work? Okay, I'm sorry. No, and also from the article that I read this morning in one of the science newsletters, that more of those are coming. So this is the year, of this energies. And yeah, it's an interesting upheaval happening. And I also find it, when I draw it to myself, what is going on with me and my life and stuff that is happening to me currently, is like, yeah, interesting, like a lot coming on, and trying to get through it.
And that's actually a very cool tool that you've just mentioned. Interesting. It's a very good tool to use instead of going good wolf, bad wolf, which I'm gonna, who is the one that I'm gonna feed. It's just like interesting. It's really interesting. That's what's happening at the moment,
Because there is also another, and on another article, there is now a new theory up out of the University of Toronto that they are putting forward the hypothesis that it's not dark, that dark matter does not exist, but it's just the light that is slowly, when the light is just going and then the light is just slowly, fading away. So that creates what we perceive as dark matter, but it's not dark matter. It's still in sort of like light, but it's diffused very, very, very thinly into the ether. Like, when you take a beam from your torch, as when you point it then at far away, so that it's like the light is fading. It's not as strong when you're in front of it, what you're seeing in front of your feet. So that's yeah, I thought also that's also an interesting thought, going into this, taking away this the battle royale between the dark and the light, and the good and the evil and all that. So I find interesting finding new ways of getting around that. And because that was the first thing that came into my mind. I was like, are they now trying to change the narrative on maybe that the light is always there, that we should not lose hope in a sense?
I'm personally, I'm looking at, and this is easy for me because just staying away from all these conspiracy theories, because I've never been really interested in those anyway. So if you take those out, and then if you start reframing the darkness that is needed in order to perceive the light, or even more natural now, because I look at this whole thing as the earth being the earth upgrading.
Mhm.
And as the earth is upgrading, we are the earth. We are the particles of the earth, the atoms, electrons, whatever you want to call it. So of course we are going through the same process with the earth. And with all the sun, the solar storms and everything, there's so much radiation coming in. It's almost like we need the darkness in order not to get burnt into a crisp. And that's obviously metaphorically speaking for keeping the balance with everything else, because there's so much light coming in. So it's almost, I look at him saying, well, I am light, I know that. So it's not that I need to fight the darkness. I'm actually embracing whatever comes in that is not necessarily considered positive, because it keeps the balance of everything.
Mhm.
Just everything is the opposite of what it appears to be, you know, and just continuously out creating, reframing everything. And that seems to be working for me. Now, we were talking about the physical body. Of course, the physical body is going through this, and the solar plexus in particular. So digestive system, you know, we got to drink more water and eat maybe differently, starting to eat differently. You know, I mean, my weight is quite interesting because I can wake up with 2-3 kilos more than the day before. And it's not based on anything that I'm eating. It's like, what the hell is going on? Because I've been doing this just for fun to look at it. And it's like, what is this? It's almost like my body starts putting on weight in order to protect itself. We've heard this before, from whatever is happening outside, but it's not a negative attack for me. It's just that explosion of light that's coming in, that's radiating in. So for me, we did last week, we did that gravitational pull, like being the center of your gravitation, the point of gravity. And that I keep going back on many times throughout the day, when my thoughts, because my thoughts just flippantly disappear the whole time, you know, and I just have to say to myself, okay, where are my feet? Where are my feet? My feet are here in London. So where are my thoughts? Why do not where my feet are? So I'm doing this feet thought correlation all the time to bring it back. And that seems to ease a little bit, because you wake up and all of a sudden you feel like, ooh, what is this? And it wasn't a dream that triggered it. And the day yesterday was great. And then this morning it's like that. So keeping yourself grounded, thinking of yourself as the earth, like you were saying earlier on, Tanya, that groundedness with the earth. Take it even further. You are the earth.
Mhm.
So whatever the earth is going through, and forget, because the earth can throw everyone off just like that. So whatever conspiracy is out there, whatever baddies or goodies, the earth doesn't actually care, you know. It's having her menstruation, or birthing rather, you know, and we're all being birthed with it. So let's just allow ourselves to go through the process. And the other thing I was looking at the solar plexus being connected to the earth and to the sun, and then connecting the sun and the inner earth, the inner sun as well, you know. So almost like using earthy or planetary, everything along those lines at the moment, to just keep myself, you know, I'm the universe, I'm the solar system, I'm the earth, I'm everything. So keep it that high in terms of perspective, because that takes out the other stuff, all those bits and pieces, and we can still listen to them and hear them and see them, but it's not going to affect us from that perspective then.
Yeah, it's an interesting journey right now, for sure. And I think a lot of things are coming to the surface, right? For clearing in people's bodies, in people's worlds, right? And like you were saying, Martina, even with the food, we're making different choices and needing different things. It's and I think as too we age, our bodies change and we need different things anyway. More nutrients, less.
Hi, Jen. Yeah.
Yeah. Hi, good morning.
Hi.
Or good afternoon to you. Yeah. Well, I think it's like that with all the cicadas that Jen has been working with, it's an energy of emergence,
Mm.
right? Birth. I like that scenario of birthing into a new frequency, emerging into a new energy, bringing the old up to the surface to purge it out, and sitting with the new or higher frequency energy.
And that sitting is interesting because I can't watch a lot at the moment, for inspiration or anything. I just feel so drawn to just sit outside in the garden, and talk to the birds and the cats and, and have my coffee out there. And there is this need to just be still. And not without expecting anything. Not that I'm expecting to hear or see anything. It's just like, and then I'm thinking, no, come on, watch something. And then I start, I'm like, nah,
Yes.
old paradigm, right? I don't want to hear this.
Always me. I can't watch TV. I'll listen to podcasts sometimes when I work, but like to sit still and watch a podcast, can't do it. I'm always doing something. Although I do love to just sit and sip a cup of tea or sip my morning coffee on my bench in my backyard. I really enjoy this exchange that I'm having with the cicadas, and I love that. Like, I have 2 different breeds in my yard. They're all concentrated in my yard for the whole neighborhood, and the ones in the back make a completely different noise than the ones in the front. So I'm enjoying that, but like to sit under the tree where they're still dropping out is a non-starter right now. So I haven't sat still in my yard, but I have like planted rose bushes, and I talk to them a lot, and like they'll come and they'll sit by me. Think they've only had a couple that landed on me. I'm not afraid of bugs, but it's still just weird to have, like, they're big. They're very big. So, but yeah, it's been an interesting exchange, and I love the fact that I can hear like 2 distinct different breeds of them making noise. But just to sit outside and commune with the birds, watch the squirrels go about their business. I enjoy watching my dog and my cat and how they react to this new inundation of critters in the yard, because I thought Marble would torture them and Roscoe would leave them alone, but it's been the opposite.
Well, I love that video you posted of them chasing the light,
Yes.
the laser light. That was funny.
Yeah,
I
well,
have
so it's fun.
I have a friend who has a new kitten, and she just used one of these fishy apps on her iPad and laid it in front of the kitten, and the kitten went all nuts, killing all the koi in the pond. It was hilarious. I'm like, oh my goodness. But that reminded me of when I once was walking with my dog, and we passed by, we passed a road which I never really took, but it was on our way because we were doing another tour. And in front of one house, it was a statue of a donkey, which was made as if you can put, flowers inside. And she was barking at it and growling, and I'm like, it's a statue. And I tried to go with her in front of it, but no, it was like, no. She didn't really want to pass by that statue of a donkey. It wasn't really big, it was one of these, planters, but it was just too funny.
No, that happened with my
I
dog
was, yeah,
Kiki too, where there's a statue of a dog in front of the school across the street, but on the other block. And we were walking around the block, and when that thing first went in, she just like
Yeah.
kind of freaked out, and like growled at it and then went up and sniffed its butt.
Roscoe does that. My neighbor put out like these big skeletons for Halloween. And it was funny to watch Roscoe's reaction to them because they weren't there one day and then they were there next day. And he was not having it at first. And so he had to kind of get up close, but then like he'll get close and then he'll jump back and then he'll get a little closer. And he'll jump. It is nice to watch the world from their eyes, like that innocence and that exploration. Like we understand what something is, but they don't. And so to watch them get comfortable with something new in their environment, I think is fascinating.
But also their perception is obviously so much more expanded. I mean, they've got so many more playmates. What they see is not what we see, right? They're like, can't you see this is happening here? No, you can't stop at the donkey because there is something that's pooey and you're not supposed to go there, and things like that. So I think, this is the other thing. I don't know, we were talking a lot about perception, right? And how our perceptions are expanding. Have you guys, since those lovely colors and everything over the last couple of weeks, have you started having different conversations that are sort of getting more intense on some level, be that now seeing, smelling, tasting, anything like that?
I have I've been more open to channeling lately. Like I was pretty closed off to that for a while. Because I really wasn't, I don't know, that wasn't where my interest was for a while. But when I was meditating the other day, Kali came in, and that's somebody also that her energy is like not really a match for my energy. So I really hadn't explored anything of hers, but I knew it was time for me to look at that. So like I channeled her for a little while the other night, and something also pushed me to so I got to see when you were talking about the colors over the last couple of weeks, are you talking about the Northern Lights?
You had some great shots.
It's an amazing experience. I mean, I live in Tennessee. We don't see something like that. I had it on my list to go to Alaska in the wintertime to see them. But that absolutely amazing experience. And something pushed me yesterday to like start over again doing Kuji-in. So like where Sandrine had looked up the book and I shared that website, like I started again on Ren's last night. And as soon as I dropped into that frequency, I came upon like I was brought to an old version of myself that was a dragon that had been slain, and they told me to pick up the heart of it, which was this like purple off-world diamond. I mean, the energy that I could feel in my physical hands when I energetically picked that up was amazing. So I would say yes, that I can tell that the energy is stronger more recently than it was before.
And you were saying that you were drawn to it. So just for people, if they think, so how do we do it and everything, it's just as you say, that something just tells you. When you say drawn, would you want to explain how that feels? Does it feel like something, or you hear a voice, or?
Well, for me, I had during the eclipse event when I was in Paducah, I had stumbled on this crystal shop, which was actually like a bead shop. But as soon as I walked in the door, I knew I wanted to get a yellow mala. And I was just looking around our screen too, how we've all got like all the chakra colors represented, in either what we're wearing or what's in our background. But I knew I wanted to get a yellow mala, and so I went right to it. I found exactly what I wanted, and it even has like in the tassel and little beads for being able to keep up with how many rounds you're doing, not just the 108, but also like a counter for how many rounds you've done. And I had that sitting on a selenite disc on one of my side tables for, I don't know, what's it been, a month and a half? And this weekend, like I couldn't not walk past it without stopping to almost pick up that mala. And so yesterday, that physical urge was so strong that I'm just like, I hear you. I'm sitting down. I'm going to do it now.
Mhm.
So it just, I don't know. And in that particular sense, it came to me that I was so physically drawn to it that it took more energy to ignore it than it did just to sit down and do it.
Exactly. It's not that you heard a voice or anything, because so many people get hung up, oh, I can't hear, I can't see, or anything like that. And we all have different ways of perceiving, the unseen, the other dimensional, communications. But sometimes it's just that. I'm with you on this one. I'm like that too. I might ignore something. I might just talk about it for forever. And then one day there's, okay, action time. It's got to be done now.
Mhm.
Kind of thing. And there is no particular timing. I call it divine timing. And it took me a long time to acknowledge that, because in the beginning it was all me making myself wrong for not acting out on something, until I realized, oh, okay, is now the time. So you ask the question, is now the time? And very often it's not the time. And I've had the one thing I've had, with my garden, I was talking to the rose. I wanted to put the rose on the other side. And I was talking to the rose, and she said, no, not now. Now is not the time. And then, of course, I said, okay, well, we'll do it anyway, right? So we had it taken out because I wanted that side finished and everything. And of course, now she's sulking and saying, well, fuck you, I'm not gonna give you any flowers this year. I'm like, no,
I
please.
told you so.
Yes, you did. No, it's like, nah. It's when you go against your knowingness, or people who give you advice or anything like that, especially people who give you advice and you say, no, I'll do it my way. No, it wasn't that. But she did say no. And I thought, no, come on. And then I Googled it, and it was only like, a couple of days out. And just when it was really nice and hot. And now she's sulking. Anyway, I gave her some healing, and I spoke to the others, because another one was planted as well. And she's a skinny little shit, and she is totally okay with it. So I've asked the others to help her. But anyway, why am I talking? So yeah, trusting your inner knowingness, and literally, if you don't know what it feels like to have communication, just start talking to everything. That's how I started. Forget about waiting for them to speak to you. And this is actually something I need to say now. I've just had an idea, because I was talking to a friend of mine, and he was telling me he had a dream, and there were spirits. And as he observed them, they almost had a fright, because they didn't realize that he was observing them. But he acknowledged them, they had a fright. And that was such a significant little story, because we always think the spirits are all knowing, and we are the ones who have no idea. So, sometimes you are observing something and they don't even know that you're observing them, so don't make yourself less than whatever you are actually observing, because that can be a very significant turnaround in the way you perceive yourself as the observer. Yeah, I thought it was very interesting. And then they obviously disappeared. Go, Jenya.
Actually, 3 thoughts. Rose bushes love to be fed, so if they're unhappy with you, feed them. Get a nice rose fertilizer and they'll get happy again.
Done. Tick. What else?
When you were saying, like, if you don't know how you get communication, talk to everything. Even if you're still not receiving anything, just saying all that stuff out loud moves so much out of you that it'll really clear your head. So that's very helpful. And what's the third one? I have been seeing a lot with my physical eyes lately, particularly shadows moving across the landscape. I don't know if anybody else is seeing this, but like I was talking to a neighbor of mine, outside in the driveway while she was walking her dog, and she saw it too, but she glitched, right? But it was like this shadow of a net went over both of us, and there was not a cloud in the sky, no planes, there was nothing, no trees, nothing above us that would have made a shadow. And like I could see the whole shape of it as it went across, and she kind of like flinched, but then she went back to talking what she was talking about. And I've seen that several other times, just being outside, that out of absolutely nowhere, it's not a bird, it's not a plane, it's not Superman. It's I'm not sure what it is, but there's something coming in from another plane that's creating shadows, but they're not in our physical world.
Yeah.
Nothing scary, doesn't feel bad, it just interesting.
And
Yeah, as a,
Going back to your rose for just a second, what I was seeing is that she'd be very happy with an offering of a fish.
fish.
Yeah.
Most fertilizers have fish emulsion, so that makes a lot of sense.
Okay, thank you. I'll give her
But a
fish.
very, you know, deliberate, you know, ceremonial
Right.
apology.
I'll be my ceremonial best. I have put the fertilizer on, but I didn't think about the fish, so thank you so much. Yeah, I will do that. Can it be sardines?
Yeah, I think any fish will work.
Your cats will like that too.
yes.
You can just you know, you can bury it a little bit, you know, ceremonial, offer it and then bury it.
Oh, I'm definitely gonna do that. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, as a child, I always spoke to everything. I mean, everybody was always I was a single child, and people were asking me to whom am I talking, you know, and I'm like, to, I don't know, you know, to everything. Well, my constant companion was my dog, so we had a lot of discussions, very fruitful ones and very deep ones, and sometimes very nasty ones as well. But okay, so no, but on the shadows, thank you that you're mentioning that, because I was actually already trying to think that I was trying, you know, that I was trying too hard to see things, and then, you know, oh, there was a shadow. No, I have been having these passings as well, and mostly it happens also when I'm in bed reading on my Kindle and the lights are off, you know, although there is some diffuse light from outside still coming in, and I'm like, okay, there's something here. Okay, yeah, you want to be noticed, because now my attention is on my book. I don't know, maybe. So next time I will start talking to it. Yeah, I don't know. But yeah, with the shadow, it's even yesterday evening I was looking outside and taking in all the greenery, because on Monday I will be back in the desert, so to speak. And I had the feeling there was a light coming towards me, and I do not live very far from the airport, but the planes are not coming in that way, you know, they're coming in the other way. So I was like, what was that? And then it was gone, you know, it was like a light and then gone, and I was like, okay, and nothing else in the sky. So I'm like, okay, nice meeting you.
I really think, you know, the more we acknowledge those encounters, you know, without fear, obviously, the more they will have, you know, they will have trust in making themselves seen or heard with more clarity. I really think we need to turn everything around now. It's just like, it's just, don't stop blaming yourself, you know, for not trusting enough and all of that, you know. Maybe we're just too scary at times, you know, because we're already doing it and we're actually not acknowledging it, and just softening that demeanor, that behavior, so that they give them an opportunity, an invitation. It's maybe sending out that invitation. And maybe in the morning, you know, it's like just asking the question, so who or what can I invite today to play? That kind of thing. and then just see what awareness arises as that happens. Yeah.
You know,
And when you threw out that call on the text line about hollow earth, inner earth, and what energies want to communicate,
Mhm.
I said, "Oh, okay, that's interesting. I'll invite any energy that wants to communicate in." And it was interesting what came through. I saw the image of a mastodon from thousands and thousands of years ago, who's one of the ancestors living in Hollow Earth now. And he said that they could communicate in a different way than animals do today. Much like that one movie. And of course I knew it was the Chronicles of Narnia, right? Where the animals are talking, right? The animals are conscious and aware. And so that mastodon had a conscious awareness and was able to communicate in a language to many across species until that pole shift happened, and then that species was sort of wiped out. So I thought that was really, really interesting. That just came through earlier. That communication of that we have the ability to communicate with animals and unseen in ways that we haven't yet acknowledged as a culture.
Yeah, and I want to bring in Mary here, talking about communicating with animals.
Yes, just to say first about the shadows, I have noticed some shadows myself, but it's inside in the house. I have noticed the shadow maybe coming to the door, and it's with the side of my eye. If I'm looking straight at it, I won't see it, but it's just with the side of my eye and my peripheral vision. I have noticed that sort of fleeting shadow coming, and I just look to see who's coming in, and then there is no, sorry if my camera off, there's nobody there. Yeah, the whole thing with animal communication has been coming up an awful lot for me lately. And as you were talking about the rose there, Martina, I think that with all living things actually, and plants, like even your rose, and what I'm getting about your rose is I'm wondering what time of the year you moved it, because there's a certain time of the year that it can't be moved, and if it's moved, it doesn't like it at all. So it's about maybe the rose is teaching you something about timing. I don't know, maybe you did move it at the right time of the year, but for the little bit of gardening I used to do, I know that roses are very sensitive plants, and you have to, some plants will be fine if they're moved when they shouldn't be, they recover, but the rose will definitely let you know. It just won't flower the next year, and it takes it a full year to recover. And for some reason, what's coming to me about it as well is it's like the birth thing. It's something about the womb energy. It's something about, being born too soon, being moved too soon, or something about that. But I know I haven't kind of put all of that together to make sense of it. But there's just something circulating around that for me in relation to the rose. In relation to the animals, I have a dog at the moment, and the dog seems to be reading my mind. I really am convinced the dog knows what I'm thinking, because if I'm sitting here and I'm saying nothing and I think that I might go for a walk, the dog will walk to the lead and will wait for me at the door, and I haven't said anything. And I'm thinking, this is just unreal. The dog also knows the time. It knows the time that it's going to be fed every single day, and it will go over to the bowl if I'm not moving. And if I don't go, if I'm in a different room, she will just paw at my hand until I move, and I know that's what she wants. So she's really communicating with me. If she wants to go outside to wee, she will do the same kind of movement, and she knows that I know what it means. And I was just saying that one time I was in a field about a year ago, and there were animals in the field, and these two donkeys came over to me, and they were, all over me. I was kind of thinking, what do they want? and they were nearly trying to knock me down, and I wasn't quite sure what they wanted. But actually, when I sort of, I didn't run away, and I put my arms around their neck and I was talking to them, because I'm very used to animals. I was reared on a farm, and they just wanted to play. And what was the connection with me? I don't know. As I was walking out of the field, they followed me to the gate, and I was just as bad looking back at them as they were looking at me. And it does make me realize that we all have that connection with all living things. And actually the common denominator in it all is love. And it's a higher form of love. It's not just, it is something very high vibrational about that kind of love. And I think humans could learn from it in a way. I think that, there's no distortion in it. There's something really pure about it. And I think that's why people who are ill, get so much out of having an animal in their house, or getting a new pet. Or I remember one time seeing a video of a horse that used to be brought into a hospital, who used to go around to the patients, and he would lean his head over the patient and breathe on them and sniff and lick and all of this. But he was actually healing the patients. And he never opened his mouth, of course, or said a word. He was doing all of this energetically. So that whole energetic connection has me really fascinated in the last while, because it's very much present in my life. And it isn't that it's new. It was always there. I used to have a cow that I used to love when I was a child. And it was back in the day where you hand milked. And I used to go into her in the evening, and the first thing I used to do was put my arm around her neck, and I used to try and see what she could see through her eyes, because her eyes were more to the side of her head than the front. So I used to be trying to do that. She had massive, big eyes. But I discovered that if I sang to her, that she would be really, really happy, and she would give me lots of milk. And she would turn around when I'd be milking her and looking at me, and I'd look up and talk to her. And oh my God, she was just so special, And when my father used to be moving them on, I used to be lonely after them, because I had formed some sort of a connection with them. So that's all I need to say about me and animals. But I definitely am enjoying very much at the moment that whole connection again, and the connection with everything that's living, really. I'm very aware of our connection to it.
Now I love that. And now let's look at this beautiful energy between two species, or more than just two species. And now we're going to take it into the context, like Tanya was saying, we're talking about the animals that are living in inner earth, that, are millions of years old, who used to live on surface and now have been living in subsurface for so long. And what if we can use exactly that beautiful energy that Mary just given us now and talk to them just as we would be speaking to a cow, if you do talk to a cow, but you know what I mean, or to a dog maybe, rather, or a cat. Because I also think, we're spending a lot of time, and not we, I just say we, are thinking of up aliens coming down, and there's no aliens that are coming down because they're already here. So we have to actually, the first ones that are really going to come up is not down, they're coming up from subsurface, because they have all the codes. They can live here perfectly well because they have lived here before, right? But now we have to be the invitation for them.
Maybe that's my bugs.
Huh?
Maybe that's my bugs that have been living underground for 17 years and are now emerging.
Yeah.
Wow.
And my rose, the sensitivity of, the patience, be kind, be sensitive. You can't just, because they're being unsettled. just because they're thousands of years old and ancient and have a lot of wisdom and everything, they're coming up now to a completely different world. So it is very alien to them. And with the earth changing, you know, transforming itself, we are the keepers of the earth. By being the earth, we are the welcoming committee for those beings coming up again, you know, and we have to almost re-establish the communication with them. And I love what Mary said. It is a kind of love, but it's beyond the kind of love that we know. It's a universal love. It's something beyond emotional love. It's something that is just a direct communication from, I don't even want to say heart to heart, from being to being, whichever way we want to connect.
I think that
Spirit
goes,
to spirit.
yeah, it's non-competition, non-hierarchy. We are all the same. And so instead of it being like an owner and a pet, we are all the same. And that's how we can communicate in the same plane.
I think this is just one of the, I mean, this is a message that we have been turning around and around in several of our talks already, is this: we are all one, you know, and we have in the past been much more connected because we have been much more plugged in to Earth, in a sense, because we were living from her. Now that we have been, you know, Netflixed and X'd and Facebooked and whatever, you know, we lost touch literally, and we just need to get back to that somehow. And I mean, a simple just sitting outside in something greenery and talking to a rose, or you're just going to a park because you live in an area where you don't have anything, is already sufficient to actually go back and find a connection. And before I'm leaving you here, girls, because I have to leave, on your rose, what could happen to her is that, yes, now that she's sulking because she's been a prime rose in a sense, but she can go back to being a wild rose. So because that happened to one of my rose bushes in my previous garden, which was a rose, you know, a garden rose, but then it decided to go back into wild state. So
Thank you.
Good luck, lady. See you next week, okay?
Have a great dinner.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye. You know, as you girls are talking, it's also like, you know, the lesson. I'm almost thinking, you know, once I get the lesson, that, you know, she'll also recover a bit faster. And I got that rose in 2008, and that was when I got out of corporate. And Mary said something about the womb, and you all said about timing, and maybe it's just telling me to, oh, she's got to go to, okay, darling, go. Nice to see you. That it's not time to go into the next big change. I don't know. That's just come up.
Yeah.
Mention the word, you know, that kind of thing, you know, not pushing it, not that I push anything, but, you know, maybe it's just a reminder, or it's an invitation to me to just, you know, look at it from that perspective. So, go.
Not exactly changing subjects, but what comes to me when we're talking about all this. The last couple of days, I have observed more carefully, like, how I intimidate people. Like, even people that have known me for 20 years, to the point where they babble and they tell me, like, I don't know, they'll read almost their grocery list, that they spill everything to me. And I'm just sitting there looking at them like, I thought we were going to talk traffic control, you know, like, anyway. And I was thinking about that the other night, like, why are people all of a sudden so nervous around me, and why are they just so unsettled? And I realized how still I sit in my energy now. And so I thought, well, maybe it's just kind of like a difference in the level of sovereignty and not feeling comfortable in that stillness. But as we're talking, I can see how many people are plugged into the energy of this realm But like where we are right now is we're plugged in more to like original source energy. So we're running at a different current. But the more we're plugged into the source energy, the more we are able to communicate with our dogs and our pets and our rose bushes and things like that, because we're connected to the source of all things.
I have that experience, Jen, frequently, where I'll just be sitting with someone and all of a sudden they're telling me their life, their life story. You know, it happens with my clients too, where I'll say, well, why did you come here today? And then I'll just get like blah, right? A lot of everything, like everything that they're thinking about, that's going on with them, you know, that time in childhood when blah blah, you know, it just, I think you're right. You know, we have the ability to hold space and listen, right, in a way that is non-judgmental and safe. I think when people feel safe, then they feel safe to share. You know, it's like Mary singing to the cow, right? She brought that energy of, you know, love and joy. And the cow's like, hey, yeah, let's go, let's do it. I love that.
I get that in sessions too. I guess what I was looking at the other day was more like the anxiety that people get when
Let me say something
they
to
don't
that.
act.
What's coming to me for that, yeah? And I have already felt that your energy has changed in the last couple of weeks along those lines, yeah? What I'm perceiving is that because of your level of psychic capacity and perception, you have automatically, you pick up what people think, so they don't even have to tell you. And that creates that huge connection with you because they feel safe. They don't even have to voice anything, you know? As you're starting to, I want to say, lose interest a little bit in that, because you're starting to really focus your energy into creating something different instead of just empathically, you know, being there for other people, holding space. It's almost like the anxiety they're showing you and the blah blah that's coming out is because they realize that you're disconnected, energetic, not disconnected, but, and they can feel that they're no longer held the way they used to be. And it's almost like, oh, I can't let her go. I can't let her go. And now they just blah, 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 blah. And that's the anxiety almost for them. I can't lose her. I can't lose her. And not that they have any idea that that's what they're doing, but it's because you are sort of retrieving your auric field because you're using it for something else. And they don't want to be dropped. But that, we all know that this is a very healthy situation, because now finally they need to speak up, because you just didn't take it out of their heads psychically.
Yeah, I think it's very well said. Thank you.
And this is quite,
Yeah.
you know, it comes across as intimidating, but actually you're just perceiving their anxiety. Like, oh my God, now I have to look after myself. Now I have to actually say what up, because she's no longer just taking it out of my head. It's a very uncomfortable position for them, especially if they've known you forever, being the space holder. And this is where we need to know when to hold space and when not to hold space, because it can be disempowering.
I would agree with that, Martina. Everything that you've said there. I think also, Jen, that there's a kind of an honesty in your energy, and there's a solidness about it that's very grounding. And I can see why people would be drawn to that, because if they need somebody, you know, to hear them, and there's no sense of judgment, you know, coming from your energy, they would feel very safe in telling you that. But it also would help them to ground themselves in it, because you'd be able, with your energy field, just to ground that straight away without having to even try.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's quite exciting. So I think we need to all recognize that. And of course, we're going to lose people because they will then find somebody else who basically carries their dirty underwear forever, you know, and doesn't really, you become intimidating in a way when you become authentic. That's the way it is. But that's the kindness of authenticity, you know, that's the kindness for you and for the other person, because they finally need to, you know, say, hey, maybe I can be that she is, what she is. And, you know, good luck with that. Huh.
The cicada whisperer.
Mm.
That's just been a whole experience. I don't know what to say about all that.
But even, you know, the story you told us about them in the car with you and doing their business, you know, that in itself just shows that authenticity, that, you know, not worrying about what's going on around you, no longer psychically picking everything up. Look, I looked at this the other day, actually, you know, my absolute love for pattern recognition, you know, is a I don't want to call it addiction, but actually it's good on one hand, but on the other hand, it's actually going against the way the observer. I was looking at the observer effect, you know. So when you have a capacity of picking up patterns, you immediately create separation in a way, you know. And now we have to add this other level is through our observation, there has to be complete non-judgment of the pattern that you're picking up. That's what I'm saying, you know, that only that can then turn into compassion. And this is the other thing, we did this meditation last time, and I was looking at meditation, and, you know, I think Mary, you and I, we were actually chatting, weren't we? And
Yes.
about meditation and how for some people, the more we have going on around us, and, you know, people like Jen who's working, and, you know, lots and clients with Tanya and everything, the more we have going on in big cities, the quicker we can go into that space of Zen. Instead of sitting there, making sure you sit in a certain way and you have to close your eyes and you have to do this and you have to do that. That can be distractive for some people. It's better just to have a complete chaos. And I think that's what I saw with Matthias as well. I mean, he thrives when he does shows, workshops in London, because there's so much to work with. He just needs, the energy is just so chaotic, where he can just play, he can just be that maestro and put it all together in that Zen space, you know? No, I mean, he doesn't focus anywhere, as we know, but I think it's an easier place here than, or in a big city where lots and lots and lots of stuff is going on. And it made me realize another thing, that meditation, I want to reframe meditation into observation. For me, observation is a better way, especially when we talk about a guided meditation where we are trying to tap into our imagination in a certain way. I don't want to look at imagination anymore as something that just pops up and I need to think 5,000 times, is this now right or is it wrong, or am I trusting myself enough? What if I'm just observing that? So what if everything is just an observation?
I think that's what keeps us in the present moment, right? Like even with the psychic stuff, instead of trying to reach and recognize patterns and things like that, just be. Just be be present, be witnessing what's right before you instead of trying to peel it back. The more we just flow with it instead of trying to dissect it, the easier it comes.
Yeah, what if that, what we're seeing and we think we're making it up, is actually, we are actually observing it. And then we go into meditation, we're trying to activate the third eye, and I can't do it, I can't do it. Well, you're already doing it because you are observing it, because you just told us about it. Well, that's it. That's your third eye telling you this. You're making it up, yes, because you are seeing it. You're just not calling it that. But maybe what if that is it?
See, when I meditate, my only goal when I meditate is to find stillness, to not hear anything, to not see anything, to not try to go anywhere, just to like be in my energy and to let the vibration go up as high as it wants to. I don't force it either, just as high as it wants to. And then I'll come back down. But like, I don't do guided meditations. I'll write guided meditations for other people, but for myself, when I meditate, it's really just to get still.
Yeah, I would find I would be the same. It's really connecting with the stillness within myself, really is the purpose of the sort of serious meditation. But last week was fun, really, to discover, and it was an observation. It was like very much for me, let me just see how I'm going to manage this, because I was so distracted with everything that was going on around me. And yet I got so much out of that meditation. And I also saw that everything around me was equally as important. It was all of equal value in that trip and that journey of meditation. There was nothing actually a distraction at all. It was all part of it. So we often find, I think, the way and the path in life through what we think is the mundane and is a distraction and isn't important. It's through that we're finding it. Like the third eye is always open, it's always observing. We just don't know it all the time. We just don't pay it attention. That's okay. But it's good to realize it sometimes.
Yeah. I didn't get to do the meditation last week with you all because I was on a deadline, but I had meant to go back and listen to the recording and do it at home. So I'll do that tonight.
Yeah.
I think that's what awakening is all about at the end of the day. It is really just an intensification, more clarity with our senses, you know, even if it's, and for me, it's a continuous outcreation of how we have perceived something in the past. How are we going to perceive it now? And I think there will come a time quite soon where we're going to run out of words, because the old words are not going to cut it anymore. And we see that, you know, with Jen doing her sigils and you know, the art and everything. And this is where the art is coming back, because, or the sounds, because we can no longer express what we are perceiving through the 26-letter alphabet. This is obviously where the 1 million letter alphabet comes back again. The one we talked about from ABC, you know, teachings.
Yeah.
Where the colors are coming in too, right? Where the colors are coming into the sky and we're seeing them in a different way in flowers. Even the sunset a few weeks ago, the colors in the sunset weren't normal sunset colors. They were something completely different. So I think that we're getting new colors as well as part of that 1-million-letter alphabet, because they make you feel something. And that's really what we're going for, is if we don't have words for it, how do we convey an emotion without words?
If I suppose what's coming to me in that, Jen, is kind of, is it more about a recognition? And I was thinking that too when I was talking about the love that I feel with the animals and with the plants and with everything that's living. you know, with though you can talk, of course, to an animal, but it's not going to talk back to you. But there's something in the love that is for me, it's recognition. It's something about just being recognized, being seen, being acknowledged without the words, but it's seen somewhere else. There's something about that, I think, that's really coming in for me instead of the words.
Yep.
I don't know if that makes any sense.
Do you know, with my two cats, I mean, the one cat's always been a talker, but now the other one is even starting to talk, making more meow sounds. Like, why are you doing this? You've never done this. So why are you now doing, you know, the sounds too? Even that. Well, I think we're living in a very magical time, and we could still call it magical, and there will be a time where we have to outcreate that word too, because that is actually normality, right? But at the moment we can still call it magical. You know,
Your statues talk, Martina. I've heard the metal head with all the adornments on it was right chatty too.
oh yeah, well, in my house everything talks.
It really does.
And it's like I'm finding these things, because they always tell me what I need to do next. So this is when I go to my markets, is okay, what needs to find me in order for my next steps, and then once I've been to certain places, I clear out the altar with certain things and then see what's left. And for some interesting reason, I've got Native American coming in now, starting to find this, and I'm like, oh, this is not really something I'm too interested in, but obviously I have no idea, so maybe that's something, but I'm just going to be guided and see. And then my friend's already telling me that he's talking much more. He sent me some YouTube clips and stuff like that, so that's how. But this, for me, this is actually going back to how I used to work. I always allowed myself to be guided like that. I just didn't know it. And then once I learned about it, I became too rigid about it. I thought it had to be a certain way, and I forgot that that's how it always used to be. And everything has slowed down now. That is something I have to say, and that has thrown me a little bit, how because everything has changed so much as well, because there was a time where I never looked into, the unseen side of things. And now it's the realization how much we actually do in the unseen, And lots of us here are actually, especially here for that. And that's why I keep saying the beginning of my journey, the first part of my life here was karmic resolution on steroids, karmic resolution. But now all of a sudden there is this place of, okay, so my work, it's almost gonna begin, not just mine, all of our works. But this is, I think, also why we need to. I was wearing I found my snaky necklace. It's just can't breathe. We talk about change, and we talk about out creation, and we talk about, and this is something I've, obviously having met Matthias at this weekend, what really I got reminded of again is that complete letting go. What the non-dualists say, where everything just disappears, the body disappears, which is the void space, which is really the void space. And this is where we can create the new, don't want to call it matrix, the new setup, the new reality. But it means that we have to literally, not physically, but in many ways die. And we all have done that, if you think about it. So many things we've let go, people we've let go, jobs we've let go, passions we've let go. There's so much that we have let go, right? And I suppose there will be something that will be even more of a trigger for us to really let more of that go, so that we can finally start completely out creating ourselves and starting something new. Because that's what the earth is doing. Now, the question is, ladies, are we ready for that?
Hell yeah.
Cycles of time,
I
cycles
was
of life, cycles of release and renewal.
I was talking to a friend the other day. She's really struggling with how quiet things have gotten for her. And then she wonders, like, what did I do wrong that I lost all my gifts? And I mean, I've gone through those periods too, because when it really first starts to turn on, it's just constant. And like I had to learn to turn it off until I wanted it on, because it was too much noise for me to like function in another capacity. And it was hard to enjoy it too when it was just like constantly inundating you, because it takes you very much out of the present moment, because you're always looking at what's coming forward. So, you know, I told her that I realized when I go through those quiet times where like everything is turned off, and honestly, during those times I always feel really, really isolated. Even like my friends in this area, like they can't reach me, like the phone won't work or something comes up, like I get very insulated during those times. And I've come to realize like that's my void space, and I'm supposed to really enjoy that quiet and that stillness in those moments. And I find that those times get bigger and bigger and bigger, or that void space becomes a bigger and bigger and bigger padded room for me to like recuperate and recover. But that is what we're building. I mean, I thought for a while that I wasn't going to have my gifts anymore because I wasn't feeling it all the time. And then I realized that I had honestly just gotten so used to it that I had become almost complacent about it. Not in a spoiled brat kind of sense, but just it was so commonplace for me now that it didn't feel sparkly and new anymore. And so I thought it was gone. But then when it came up and I reached back and looked for it, it was still there. And I think that's what you're trying to say, Martina, is that like we're bringing that stillness within us bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, to the point where we're going to start like Vesica Pisceing with everybody, right? Because we're going to be doing that overlap. And totally separate topic, but that overlap creates a portal for creation. And the more people that we're expanding that out with, and we're creating that overlap and that Vesica Pisces with everybody, we're creating these portals to bring in more and more and more, or rather projecting that out, that infinite creation energy out into the world.
Yeah.
And Marissa says, when the mystical, non-ordinary becomes so common that it feels ordinary.
Yeah. That's why my Beltane fire, the only thing I built this huge fire in my backyard for Beltane. And I gave it prayers for like 2 days. Like just I put all kinds of gifts into this fire and excitement for just and gratitude for life right now and what's around me. And the only thing that I asked it was like, can I see the mystical again every day? Because like it was so sparkly for a while that first came on. And the next day I got my bugs, and the day after that, 2 robins flying around like Roscoe and I were walking, and I passed one of my neighbors. I was talking to her, and right after I got past her house, 2 robins flew right into my back. And not hard, but like I could feel how whispery soft their wings were. And I mean, how often does that happen to you? And then the day after that, we had Northern Lights in Tennessee. So
Beautiful.
I like it.
Beautiful. Now, my question to you, Jen, is, are you willing to lose all of that?
Yeah.
Because this is the thing. That's a good question to ask. Are you willing to lose all of that? Because when we really go into the deep depth of the void space, none of that exists. None of that exists. All that beauty that we know. But something else exists there that we haven't contemplated yet. Or maybe some of us have. I can't give it words. I can't. I want to explore it more.
We don't lose the beauty though, it just takes a different shape because the beauty in that expanded void space is oneness. And that is the most beautiful thing that I think we can ever reach for.
And it's the attachment to form, to any kind of form, to the form that we know through love, through fear and all of that, through the matrix, through the billions, millions, thousands, whatever lifetimes we've had to get to where we are now. It's almost that death process that we can't really say we're not afraid of until we're really going through it, you know. Or maybe some can say that. I certainly cannot. I mean, I wish to be able to say that, but you know, and that's something I'm playing with at the moment, not from a place of I don't want to enjoy the beauty and all of that, but I want to even intensify and the gratitude for the beauty by knowing that void space, by getting to know that void space more, you know. And also I have this sense that in order to create a new reality here, total out creation, like Matthias is talking about the hidden particle, you know, that they're still looking for. We are all part of that hidden particle. And that I think is that, and we talked about before, you know, talking about death and, you know, finding a celebration, you know, and all of that. Yeah, that. And as you say, Jen, it's not about taking anything away. It's just that question, are you willing to lose all of that? And that's sometimes, oh, no, actually, it's quite nice sitting in the house and it's cozy and, you know, and safe and, you know, and that's like, no, this is, as soon as you start saying that, you're not there. And nobody judges anyone for that, but don't say you're there because you're not. You're not willing to lose everything. And also, this is the thing, as long as we're not willing to lose everything, and that's just the rhetorical question, of course, we're not having to lose everything. We're still attached to an outcome. We're still in separation. So it's just the bigger, the wider sort of picture.
I'll put it in different words, but the same meaning that I was talking to somebody about yesterday. And I've probably said this a dozen times in the last 2 years. When we have complete unfaltering faith in the universal flow, and we just completely surrender to that faith and the universal flow, everything falls into place for us. Everything just goes in a wonderful way. It's when we resist and we wonder and we want and we expect that it drops us out of that easy breezy genius flow, right? Like that's where the magic is. It's in the easy bandwidth. It's when we just give it all up to God, to source, to the universe, to whatever you want to say, and just completely surrender to it.
Yeah, this is where true creator status lies. We keep saying we are creating our own reality, but we are not, because we're still attached to the belief system. We're still attached to our conditioning. We're still attached to, you know, even free will. Are we really living with free will? Or is it all pure choice? Do we still believe in duality? Do we still work on the basis of cause and effect? Of course we do, because this is what this matrix is based on. And there's nothing wrong with it. I'm not even saying we need to get out in order to, just a curiosity. What is beyond cause and effect? What is beyond duality? What is beyond? Because only there is true free will. Like the prime creator, starting from nothing. What did the prime, how did the prime creator create? Because we are supposed to be particles of that prime creator wave, right? So how did they create? From nothing.
He had lightning strike mud.
Yeah, that's spells. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, it's just an interesting, contemplation. And
And
yeah.
it's perfectly okay for anybody who doesn't want to chase being an infinite creator and finding non-attachment and void space. If there's somebody that wants to stay home and hug their cats, that's fine too.
And yes, and this is number one. Anyway, first is karmic resolution, acknowledging the crap, not repressing any emotions, not repressing any conditioning. This is what we've come here for, especially our generation still. But then I think we've already got our foot slightly in because, celestial mediums, we can be everywhere, shapeshifters. We can do this and we can have a little put our toes into the void space water and see what's going on there. Yeah, no, absolutely. This is just musing.
And that void space contains the potential for anything, everything, but nothing at all.
It's beyond the magnetic field. It's beyond electricity. It's beyond male, female. It's beyond all of that. Everything that we've known, that we've learned, is beyond that. A couple of years ago, I chatted to Abby in a private chat, and I said, "Let's go there." And I started talking to the Mayans, not the Maya. They call themselves the Mayas, the illusionists. Mayas, the illusionists. And I had, I don't know, a couple of conversations with them. And I said, let's explore that. And time wasn't right to explore that. It's probably not even right now. But then I had, if you got to do what you got to do, right? You got to do what makes you happy. And sometimes it's nice because, you learn. You still learn about your limitations. You run out of limitations, go and find the void space. You find your limitations here in the matrix very quickly. Oh no, this water is too cold. Oh, there is no water. Shit, what is it? The illusion. It's beyond the sea of consciousness, beyond the ocean of awareness. Beyond consciousness. I mean, we talk as exploring consciousness, but this is such a limited way, the way we don't even know what consciousness is. We think I always thought it was energy, but it's actually not. And there's the subconscious and the unconscious and the conscious, and and what's underneath that? And what's underneath that? And is it relevant? People can say it's not relevant, for God's sake, woman, shut up. But it's fun, no? Relevant or not?
Think of, as you're speaking, the image of making a Japanese sword, katana, came up for me, where the metal is pounded flat and then folded and folded and folded and flattened and folded and folded and flattened and folded and folded. And that seems like time space, right? As it's created from the void space, where it's created and then it's folded and layered, and all of these layers, that we've gathered over the course of, our journey in this solar cycle over the last 22,000 years, and the incarnations we've had, and they're all like layered and folded and layered together. And as that's unfolding, we are having more, I think, awareness of what is who we are, but also the nature of reality. As those sword folds open up, you find trash and treasure, right? Things that we can cling to and teach us, but also things that we let go of, that we don't need anymore.
And
And then we
then,
take it out and cut the shit out of everything.
yay.
You were thinking a sword, I was thinking of a croissant.
Yeah, so we got the layers. We both got the layers. Flaky, flaky, crusty, crispy. Right. Delicious.
As you're talking, Martina, like I have a curious mind also, and I want to understand things. But the more I understand, the more I understand also that like we don't have to know that. Knowing that keeps us in our head, and where we're really going is we don't have to know it, we just have to trust it and flow with it.
Yeah, and I hear you, because you know my mind's always, you know, been one of those like shut the fuck up, right?
Mine too.
It keeps coming back and it says no, because if it's in your mind, then it's in your grasp. Otherwise, it wouldn't even be in your mind. You gotta, you have picked that up from somewhere. And also then it's a question, do you have the time to do that? You know, are you neglecting anything else? I've got no excuse. I'm not neglecting anything else. I'm totally grounded in this reality. I love 3D. I appreciate the simultaneous existence, the celestial medium journey. And I sometimes, you know, like to look from the outside in, or use myself as a boundary to confine what's on the outside beyond the environment that we see as normality. That helps me define both, or at least explore both sides, inside and the outside, because I think the outside is all we talk about is nature, right? And that's lovely, but we are nature. We are nature. That's not even the outside anymore. That's the inside for me now. Earth is me. I'm Earth. So what's outside of that? If I'm Earth, what's outside? And I don't want to, I'm not interested in this planet or this planet. I want to know what's beyond the Milky Way. I want to know what's beyond the universe. I mean, this universe has only been created through a karmic resolution. Okay, done. Of course, tongue in cheek, yeah? So what's beyond that? And then, of course, you know, you throw the ball out and it's on a string, whatever you call these flumies, and then it comes back. Okay, great. Now let's have a coffee. Let's make some food, da, da, da. But that's it. I always said to Emma, you know, when I went to the car boot with her, and I said, look, this pair of trousers costs £1. Great. And she never really understood in the beginning when I tried to teach her, it's okay, you know, it's just as nice. And then I always said, and she wanted the Gucci bag. I said, MZ, when you earn your own money, you get yourself a Gucci bag, and you use the Gucci bag, and you wear the £1 trousers together. You know, because that's how it works. You gotta put it all together. She still has to, you know, finance herself a Gucci bag, but she's perfectly happy in understanding and wearing. And, you know, I remember when I went to work, the guys often said, so how much are we worth today, Muller? £5. And I looked $1 million. You know, that's how it works, right? That's how you, Alfredo Torres, are you joking? What time is it? He's coming in now. This is not like a pop in whenever you want to.
Probably his lunch break.
Good morning. Oh, it cracks me up. Alfredo, welcome. He's connecting. Alfredo, how are you?
Amazing. I've been trying to get up in these damn meetings. I've been so busy. But yeah, no, I'm doing amazing, Martina. I've
Tell
been
us.
leveling up in life, you know.
Oh, all
Yeah.
worth you coming on. Tell us all about you. You got 10 minutes.
Oh, what? I got it on my lunch break. I don't know. I'll tell you another time. I gotta eat. But no, things have been really good. Like, I don't know, the mentorship's been like, I don't know, everything, like the new job, new people, new mentorship, all this stuff. It's just been helping me. I just needed a change, because I got so stuck in my ways, and I just got a lot of change every day. So it's been helping me grow. But that's it.
Fabulous. So sometimes changing the environment makes a huge difference.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I needed that. I needed that really bad. But no, it's been good. I've been making big gains. I got all this extra excess energy. So it's just like get super fit, get super healthy, get super psychic, get all this stuff,
Well, that's
awesome.
not a new energy. We know that about you. That's
Yeah.
Alfredo. Fantastic. Well, very good.
Yeah, y'all can carry on. I gotta eat my steak and my broccoli.
Okay, you do that.
Great. I have to pop off. So it's really great
Oh.
to chat with you all. And
Are
I
getting
I
almost
talked to Melanie yesterday, and she wants to come and talk about Vedic astrology next week. So
fantastic.
carrying on with that.
Fantastic.
Right.
Great stuff.
So have a great week.
Okay, bye.
Okay,
Love,
Tanya.
love.
Bye bye. Bye bye.
Okay. Well, let's rein it in. We've gone out too far. We've gone out too far. Let's rein it all back in again. Let's center ourselves. Take a moment here to center yourself in your little triangle at the sternum there. And just reiterate, what did we say? Recalibrate your point of gravity. And then what we're going to do is we're going to connect to the sun and also connect to the inner sun. And then from there, where are your feet? This is where that's where you are present. And then maybe what we do is we're going to take the eyes in our palms and just weave a connection to all of us here. We're going to go to Kentucky. We're going to go to Texas. We're going to go to Ireland. We're going to go to Marissa, which I can't remember now where she is.
California.
California, okay. And we're just going to weave that grid here. And at the same time, we stay completely connected. Our center of gravity. And of course, we're going to take all the others, that Sandrine and Tanya and whoever else we can think of and not think of. We don't have to mention them. We weave that connection, that grid. And then all we do is we expand that center of gravity as a unity. And then we just magnetize everything that is for our greatest good towards us. Let it come towards us. We don't have to do anything. We don't have to go anywhere. All we need to do is wear your feet. Stay centered. Everything is going to come towards us. And then from that place, we connect to the inner earth. And then there's that one question. We're not going to do it now. Just think of a question. Think of a being in inner earth you want to connect with. And you don't have to think about it. Remember, gravity, it's coming to you. It might not come right away, so we're not going to do it now. Just invitation for that being subsurface, that species, whatever that is, a version of yourself, an ancestor, a unicorn, a dinosaur, whatever. And let it come, let it make itself known into your awareness over the next couple of days, hours, whatever. And then think of a question you would like to ask that being. And then once the being has made a connection, you just ask that question, and that being can make a connection through a friend of you asking you something, through something you've read somewhere, something you watch. So don't get hung up about hearing a question, seeing a being. And then also swap it round. Allow yourself to be the invitation for that being to ask you something. Because as they are coming up to the surface, how can we be of service to them? What kind of environment can we create for them? What kind of bubble of reality can we be for them? And with that, I'm going to leave you for today. And we'll be broadcasting next week. Tanya will run the show with her friend. We're going to talk about what? Astrology, Vedic astrology. So fantastic. We're going to have a guest. Fantastic. I'll be in Austria, so I'll see you from there. Thanks very much for coming on, guys, and I'll see you next week. Huh? Mwah.
Love y'all.
Bye, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thanks for coming on, Alfredo.
My pleasure.
Munching away.